Hello out there, folks. Welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric tabletop role-playing game actual plays here on the internet. You know that. That's why you're here. You may even have had the misfortune of seeing us before. And today is one of our monthly one-shots. Only this month, we're doing two one-shots because we missed December. And the first one of them is this. We are back to the wonderful Alien TTRPG from Free League, winner of numerous role-playing game awards. And it's very good, as we found out a couple of years ago when we first played it. And then again last year when we played it again. Although actually, now I come to think of it, I think it was in 2021 that we played it again. And I'm sure we will find out yet a third time here for the final installment in our Gehenna trilogy. If anyone out there is interested, this will definitely be watchable as just a third installment kind of on its own. But if you do want to go check out the previous parts of this trilogy, they're on our YouTube. If you look for A Place of Burning and A Congress of Sorrows, or just check out our one-shot playlist, then you'll be able to find them there. As per usual, I am going to do a little bit of promo here, and then we will crack straight on with talking about the setting of this game, bring on the players, and then launch ourselves into an offering of Locusts. So down below, you'll find a bunch of links. You'll find links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You're watching this on one of those sites. Please do check out the other one. In particular, if you want to catch us live, obviously, it's on Twitch. And if you want to check out our vast archive of previous actual plays, they are on YouTube. There's also links to our Patreon, our Discord, and our social media. There will be something there for everyone, I'm sure. We currently run 2 weekly streams. Vason is on a Monday and Simbaroom is on a Wednesday, because apparently we can only ever play Free League games. And as mentioned before, we do one-shots monthly, this month being a bit of an exception. Our first one is, of course, this today, Alien, and then on the 22nd of January, which is a Sunday, we will be playing another sequel to a previous one-shot, which is our One Ring and Lord of the Rings Online mashup thing. Which will, we're looking forward to that because it has proven popular and we really enjoy the system. So there we go. What I will do then, every time we've run one of these alien things, these alien one-shots, which are all set on the same world called Gehenna, what I've done is read out a little bit of a setting explanation so that people can get to grasp kind of like where we are and what's going on roughly. And what I'll do is do that, but then through the course of introducing the characters, we'll talk a little bit about what happened in the previous 2 installments, but not too much. So with that in mind, let's talk about Gehenna. To the uneducated, that the toxic and hostile world of Revelation Blue has been colonized at all seems a baffling error. That it has been colonized twice over could only appear to be masochism. But the planet holds much in the way of useful resources and even more scientific secrets to be unraveled. Despite 70 years of study from colonies affiliated with both the United Americas and the Union of Progressive Peoples, much of Gehenna's flora and fauna remains obscure, and the planet's surface beyond the colonies of Bering and Azul is mostly a death sentence without survival suits. Primarily self-sufficient, the 2 colonies have so far eluded much in the way of corporate interference. The focus of company interests in the system are the more lucrative but far smaller mining colony on Revelation Red and the soon-to-be decommissioned medical space station UASS Mercy. For the last 60 years, the Cold War between the 2 Earth governments has escalated into open warfare between Bering and Azul. This conflict has been bitter, vicious and long, and even today, 5 years into the latest ceasefire, violence still breaks out on a regular basis between patrols and cells of veterans unwilling to let the past go. It is not a place anyone visits willingly, and the natives disdain outsiders for their weakness and ignorance. To those who call it their home, Revelation Blue is a remnant of colonial intent, lost in decades of bloodshed and struggle. They have given it a different name, one more befitting a place of sacrifice and loss. A purgatory, a burning grave, Gehenna. And that wonderful and light-hearted place is where we are and where we have been for the last 2 installments. I'm going to bring the people's favourite on first. there's no evidence of that whatsoever. But it's Pierre. Hi, Pierre. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Appreciate your referencing as me as the people's favorite. I don't appreciate your referencing the total lack of evidence for that.
Of course. So you may be watching this thinking, well, and obviously there'll be spoilers throughout for the previous two installments. It's fair to say Pierre had one of the kind of signature characters of this trilogy, right up until near the end of A Congress of Sorrows, where he promptly was vaporized.
A little bit
in a big explosion.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. You know what? I said we wouldn't do a full recap, and we won't do. But do you think you can remember enough to give us just a rough overview of sort of A Place of Burning, Pierre, in a rough sense?
Vaguely.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
I mean, from my character's perspective, it was mostly about trying to get away from past crimes.
Yes.
Variously threatening and occasionally doing violence to people in order to make it out. Yes, but primarily, make it out without any witnesses.
Absolutely, that pretty much sums it up as far as your former character was concerned. But Jiang, as we say, so the first installment took place at Chirikov Station, which was like a factory and processing plant far out in the wilderness of Gehenna, where unwittingly the inhabitants had become, either accidentally or maybe a bit on purpose, sort of hosts for a small group of xenomorphs. Zhang is gone now and has been gone for a good 8 months. He's long dead. And we're not going to go too in detail about the new characters. Pierre and Justin's characters both died near the end of Congress of Sorrows, and they temporarily took on other NPCs in that as just to the end. But both of them decided to take entirely new characters for this third installment. And Pierre, you are playing Paolo Lopez. Why don't you just give us a little... you don't need to read the entire background or anything, but just a rough gist of who Paolo is.
Sure. Paolo is like, he's this sort of young, kind of scrappy little, like, kid with a kind of mop of black hair, and he's got, he's got kind of torn and like battered clothing, and that's kind of, he sort of wears that with a bit of pride. I imagine him sort of pretty stick thin and dirty at all times. And he's kind of a very sort of tinkering little kid. He is perhaps clingy, might be a word you might use to describe him. And he sort of reveres his older sibling, Mafalda, who perhaps we will get onto a little bit later.
We might maybe later. Who knows? So let's bring on our second player. Our second player today is going to be John. John plays Huang 12, synthetic corporate agent. And again, like I'll give the snippets of the recap as we go, and then John can explain Huang 12's kind of place in it. So Chirikov Station was where the story began, as I said. It rapidly went downhill as soon as aliens arrived. And essentially the group ended up having to evacuate Chirikov Station / blow it up in order to escape the xenomorphs, and they fled back to their home colony of Bering, or for most of them it was their home colony. But on the way, they made a rather unpleasant discovery, which was swarms of xenomorphs moving across the surface of Gehenna, vast herds or flocks. I don't know what the plural of xenomorphs is, but either way, more of them than they could count, that were perhaps moving in the direction of Bering. And that's sort of where we left the first installment. John, Huang 12, tell us a bit about Huang 12 and her place in this.
Huang 12 is a Seegson-issued synth, who is also a Seegson employee, tool, as basically like a site efficiency inspector who had been sent to Chirikov to examine it. kind of was just there as part of doing her day-to-day job along with her bodyguard, and then there was a murder, and then there was all of the rest of it.
All of this nightmare. Yeah.
She has the appearance of like a short, slight woman of like Vietnamese descent with like a severe bob, and what was a very smart corporate suit that is probably now looking very ratty, if she even still has it. And one of her legs has been replaced with an obviously robotic and very inferior model after an incident with a xenomorph and a gun and a helicopter.
Yeah, it's like a white plastic, just kind of like click on, plug and play sort of leg. Yeah, there we go. Let's bring on our third player. It is Steve, who plays Dima Lebedev, a Bering scientist. Essentially, what happened after the Chirikov station was abandoned and exploded is that the survivors went to Bering. Bering wasn't too happy that they seemed to have blown up their own manufacturing plant, so essentially put them into kind of kept them in captivity and interrogated them for a number of weeks, and they only managed to get out of that captivity when they were let loose by someone who explained that Bering had pretty much gone to hell in the last few days, which led to a great deal of confusion until everyone realized that he wasn't even talking about xenomorphs. He was talking about a cult, a powerful and violent group of cultists who had essentially started burning Bering to the ground. And through the course of this story, A Congress of Sorrows, we saw the survivors moving through Bering in order to try and reach the safety of like the central fortification of the colony. Steve, do you want to tell us a little bit about Dima and kind of his place in the story?
Sure. So yes, Dima was a scientist of Chirikov Station. Hasn't seen a lab. Well, we'll see, I guess, but hasn't seen a lab for some time. Looking rather the worse for wear, with a damaged left arm that was injured in the very first meeting, I think, with these weird creatures. Did Dima significant damage. Still in pain from that. So now Dima is mostly either being kept captive or running away from things, it seems. Very little science going on whatsoever. We kind of journeyed through the city, picked up some friends on the way, subplots that didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up again encountering nasty things in the transit systems of Bering.
Absolutely. I'll wrap off our little summary of the recap, and also we'll introduce another character with Alex. Alex is playing Borya Makarov, former colonial marine of the Union of Progressive Peoples turned bodyguard. So the survivors made their way through Bering, avoiding cultists and xenomorphs alike until they made it to the central fortifications, where a couple of days later they essentially discovered that one of the people they'd been shepherding to said fortification was a cultist who promptly blew himself up, taking two of our characters and the sort of computational system of the fortification's defense grid with him, which resulted in horde of xenomorphs, or as Justin has pointed out in our private chat here, a murder of xenomorphs over the walls, basically signaling the end of the colony of Bering. And in the sort of in a kind of clutch move of party rescuing intent, several ships turned up, large drop ships that seemed to be from the colony of Azul, traditionally, of course, the enemies of Bering, that mowed down some of the xenomorphs, or at least enough to grab the surviving characters and NPCs, and probably hundreds of other inhabitants of Bering, and then took off, and that's where we ended A Congress of Sorrows. Alex, tell us a little bit about Borya Makarov and like his place in all this story. Oh, you're on mute, I think, or somehow.
You're on your own personal mute by the looks of it.
personal mute, the worst kind of mute.
A disaster. Let us.
Take,
We can speak for
take-
him, and he can just move his mouth.
Yeah. If you take a look in your StreamYard settings, that might account for it.
Mysterious.
Well, while Alex takes... Oh,
Hey,
hey,
Bub, 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 bub.
there we
There's
go.
noise now. Okay, StreamYard just decided to betray me exactly when I needed it.
Now
Okay,
take a stress
so
point.
now I already have a stress point for sure. So sorry about that. Borya Makarov is well, Matt's already mentioned that he's an ex-marine or space operating forces. I think is the like super law accurate thing, because it's like a sort of a rival equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he did that for over a decade, and then following the death of his brother, became disillusioned with that line of work, and now he is private security and is protecting his corporate asset for Seegson, that being it's very confusing when it's mirrored. Rank 12. So far, unbelievably to me, he is succeeding in that mission through a few episodes, mainly through bumbling and almost dying actually right away, right at the beginning, because he was like, oh, I'll go and check out this mysterious weapon that's fallen on the ground over here in the bushes. Nothing bad could happen. But I was determined not to metagame, so here we are.
It was indeed a very dramatic introduction to Xenoforce the first time we met them. Yeah, absolutely. And let's bring on our final player of the day. It's Justin.
Hello.
Justin, like Pierre, is playing a new character. So that character is Mafalda Lopez, already perhaps referenced by Paolo. Justin, do you want to give just a quick summary of what Mafalda's about?
Yeah, so Mafalda is really a pilot, and they're kind of like a more or less a true believer in kind of what's been going on here at being reported about the alien threat or this xenomorph threat, whatever these things are outside the walls of high command and Azul Council, the rest of it. They kind of trust the situation as reported, but interested to see how things are progressing with all these news stories about strange alien creatures outside the walls. I'm sure it will all be fine. They're a pretty good pilot, but there is some just a nothing that Mafalda's been held up over, something to do with reckless flying, etc., etc. And now Mafalda's been stuck on these boring little back and forth runs to various nowhere stations that have basically eaten up all my time when I should be doing more important things, flying and bigger ships, making better use of my talents really. But I've had the supply duty, but right now I've been sent on last several weeks to this kind of refinery trip mission, which I'm not really sure what that's about. But they're so precise and pernickety about the instructions of how I'm supposed to do it. I don't know. I'm getting too tired for this. Luckily, my younger brother, who idolizes me, is back at home, safe and sound, protected by the walls of our strong colonies against whatever minor threat that we will be able to just. It'll all be fine. It'll all be fine. It'll be fine. I'm definitely not going to die in this mission.
I'm sure no one is. Absolutely no one. So there we go. Took a bit, but we are now up to date with our and ready to begin. So we are going to open our scene, and we're going to kind of open it in the others. So usually I do like a bit more of a thorough kind of recap of like how we got to the position we are. We're going to be a bit more cold open in this one, folks, and I hope people enjoy that. I know the players certainly will. Asterisk. But we are going to open in the cockpit of a battered supply shuttle as it flies. I mean, obviously relatively fast by human standards, but not terribly fast by aeronautical standards, through the air above the toxic haze of Gehenna, on its way to a fuel platform AC3, that is now probably roughly on the horizon from where you are, Mafalda. This is not a responsive craft. It is not a good craft. It is mainly one that's used for, everything in the back is just an open cargo area where the refits has allowed the maximum amount of storage possible. You're not picking up anything on what little sensors you have. You really have no idea of what you're doing going out to this fuel platform, other than that you're going to be stationed here for at least a number of weeks, presumably doing runs back to Azul as and when needed. You can't really see the ground beneath you. You can't see any other Azul outposts, anything like that, because that toxic smog I talked about that's almost always over clear ground on Gehenna is there obscuring your view, so you can't see anything moving down there in any sense. All you can see as a point of reference is that fuel platform ahead of you, which rises above that smog. And in your, well, you will have a rear view mirror, obviously, but like in your sensors, you'll have cameras on the back of the shuttle. You can see Azul in the distance at the back. You're roughly halfway between the two. It is, and I really nerdily worked this out, roughly a half-hour flight time between the platform and Azul, which represents about 100 kilometers. And if anyone starts talking about horizon distance, come at me, because I fucking worked it out. But either way, there's not a lot to it other than this. I've got two things that I immediately want to throw at you. You see that there is a signal for an upcoming broadcast from Azul. This will undoubtedly be one of their standard broadcasts that they do at irregular intervals through the week anyway, but which have escalated in recent months with the current situation. You can watch it or not watch it as you want. It's probably something you've seen 1,000 times already, but you are bored. And the other is that I would like you... Do you think Mafalda would have any curiosity about the place she's going?
Is it somewhere new, you said, or...?
Well, that's what new to you, certainly, but it's, this is the answering of the question ultimately.
I mean, I think that I would have the broadcast on in the background because this is the most boring thing in the world, so I might as well go for it.
Yeah.
I think I would be looking for anything interesting that this new place might have. So I might be like looking around, seeing if there's any, even the geography, the topology, the buildings, anything.
But kind of researching about it, right?
I mean, anything that could draw me away from this boring flight path.
Absolutely. Well then, why don't we have you give us a Comtech roll to try and find out details about this fuel platform AC3. If anyone needs a reminder of how the dice work in Alien, you simply have a total to roll, and that's the number of d6 you roll. 6s are successes. That's kind of it. Additional 6s give new stunts.
She gets 1 success.
Okay, that's great. So, as the broadcast starts, and it's a very familiar one, it's the head of the Azul Council, also coincidentally the head of the Azul High Command, who is a man called Dario Cortez. You've seen him 1,000 times give speeches, give updates to people. He's a tall, broad-shouldered man with a very big, dark, bushy beard and kind of cropped hair. And he always comes across very kind of bullish, kind of confident. You've never met him, but that's the impression he certainly likes to give. He's saying things that you already know. Essentially, he's talking about this incursion of wildlife into the perimeter outposts of Azul that they've had recently. How people should be fully aware of the threat. It's under control. The military that they're very proud of are doing their jobs. These are what these creatures look like. They are very dangerous. If any of them are seen in the outposts or on the very, very unusual chance they might make it further within Azul itself, people should immediately seek safety and also tell their closest security or military personnel about what they've seen. But there's nothing to be worried about, and the usage of the outer turrets and artillery is standard for wildlife control of dangerous Gehenna wildlife that gets near the walls. I mean, you're sure it would be standard if it had ever happened in your lifetime before, but it certainly has not. So
yeah, but I know with people like me flying for this for bearing and places like that, we'll be fine. It's all gonna be fine.
yeah. So the other thing is, with your Comtech, you managed to bring up a few details about fuel platform AC3, including some very rough schematics and the history of it. If we want to picture AC3 as essentially an oil rig, but it's not in the water. It is instead placed on land with great struts, great legs, bringing the platform itself above that level of toxic smog so that the people working on it don't have to constantly wear full environment suits. That is essentially what AC3 is. In terms of its size, I mean, it's probably pretty comparable to a large modern oil rig. So it's certainly a large and complex sort of bit of machinery, part storage, part actual, drilling and refinery and stuff like that. It's also been shelved and shuttered for about 10 years, according to these details you're finding on whatever passes for, the Azul intranet, I suppose.
I'm gonna Mafalda mumble something about they really are sending me on the most useless runs.
Pretty much. And on that note, as your shuttle slowly glides towards AC3, our camera will move back into the cargo area of the shuttle, round a long series of boring, unlabeled boxes, and then twist around to what effectively has been just made as a small, like almost a small little room or a small little tunnel through the stacking of these crates, the very inefficient stacking of ththese crates, where there is a small form, maybe lit up by the light of a screen of some kind of, well, Paolo, why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm sort of like bashing the small electronic handheld game to get it to work a bit more, because the batteries are dying and the screen is like cracked and non-functioning. But I'm desperately trying to. I thought this was going to be a really cool idea coming onto this ship and following my sister, and it is kind of exciting a little bit, but at the same time it's been a few hours now and I only bought like the one game I have, and it's kind of getting a little bit boring. I'm getting, kind of fidgeting and yeah, trying to be like, how long is this flight gonna be?
How long could it possibly be? To you've only been in the air about 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It feels
that's a lifetime
like
for Paolo
hours.
Lopez. So yeah.
Did
we fix just so people get the right impression, did we fix an actual age for Paolo? In my head, he's like 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he'll definitely overinflate that if you ask him, but
yeah, sure.
And yeah, sort of.
You've probably also received on your gaming device the blinking message of that Azul broadcast.
Okay, cool. Weird. I wonder what that's all about. I sort of think to myself, and I sort of fiddle around a bit more, and then I'm like, I just sort of put it down, and then I'm like, I sort of stealthily kind of poke my head out of the small little sort of cubby hole area, and I'm like, maybe I should have a little recce of the
a little explore.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's been long enough. Surely, about 15 minutes. Everyone's lowered their guards now.
Absolutely. Well, probably unbeknownst to you, Paolo, because you presumably snuck aboard before, everything, all the full flight checks were carried out. You and Mafalda are the only people on the shuttle. So if you're getting out and having a look around, I think personally that's an ideal time to do maybe some opposed rolls.
Sure.
So why don't you roll mobility? Paolo, and Mafalda, why don't you roll observation? And it's just whoever gets more 6s.
Okay, I'm rolling 8 dice. I have 2 successes.
Ooh, sneaky.
With
sneaky.
5 dice, I also rolled 2 successes.
Oh, that's a good credit. I don't immediately know what happens with a draw.
Normally, defender wins, right? And
normally in
observation is
games, defender wins. I would say in this, what I'll do is say that Mafalda, you hear some odd noises from the cargo hold, but ones that don't immediately sound to you like a person moving around. You know what I mean?
Like a
It could be
xenomorph,
cargo
maybe.
yeah, sure. It could be like cargo shifting. It could be any number of things. Like there's definitely a noise, but you don't immediately ascribe it to a living being moving around back there. I'd say that's a nice balance that gives.
So
you,
there's
you know,
basically
you can go
some
wherever you want with that.
unsecure cargo that has rolled
Could be.
around.
That's a kind of natural thing to assume, right?
I use language that our mother would be angry if they knew Paolo had heard it.
Sure, yeah. But it definitely didn't sound heavy enough that it's like, you know, one of those huge crates shifting that could throw off your craft's balance. Maybe it's just a barrel or something rolling around back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as I kind of, you know, poke my head out and start sort of exploring the ship, do I get a sense of the sort of size of this
It's not that big. It's not that big, and most of the interior of it is given over to this cargo. It's essentially a cargo hold with a rocket on the back and a cockpit on the front.
Sure.
It's like, I'd say it's comparable in size to Alex might know what, like those troop carrying airplanes with the big thing on the back.
What, like a C-130? Like
sure,
one of those.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah,
like the propeller ones, or like
yeah.
Cargo job. Cargo
like
plane.
probably
Yeah,
more
yeah.
like the propeller ones. Yeah.
Big like Hercules style thing.
Hercules, that's the thing that was
That's
on the
the
edge
one
of
you
my
meant.
brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. So like a large but not commercially large aeroplane.
And like, is there anything interesting about the cargo? Does it, you know, is it just big boxes? Big mechanical...
It's all crates and boxes and barrels. They're all sealed. They have labels on them, but those labels have, like, you know, a code on them that you don't understand, so you don't really know what's in them.
Yeah, none of like I'll sort of like test one of them or something and see if it like gives in any way, or like it can be opened without. I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to destroy it. I'm trying to like be curious.
Sure.
You know.
I mean, if you're just trying to, like, you know, jimmy these things, or kind of like, you know, if you're not having a proper go with some actual equipment, I will just flat out say, no, these are like military sealed.
I just sort of try it and I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Sure.
Cool. Maybe I'll sort of go a bit more towards the cockpit end of things and see if I can see what Mafalda's doing.
Sure. Mafalda is, I mean, I don't want to speak for Justin, but I imagine Mafalda is flying the shuttle.
Yeah,
a certain amount of it is automated, right? Yeah. I think once you've set your course, and this is like 200 years in the future as well, right? So I think once you've set your course and set things going, you can more or less kick back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, but I suppose I am looking over the schematics and things, so I am slightly distracted.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mafalda's kind of, there is light outside. You're above the smog of Gehenna, and it is daytime. So the sky, which is a sort of slightly sickly, brownish, pinkish, orangish color, is flooding the cockpit with that odd color of light. But Mafalda's face is also lit up by the green screen of the the interface that she's using.
I want to say that this is like, I haven't really been like flying that much.
Probably not.
This is like the first time I've seen, because obviously I've been in the cockpit, the back area, which doesn't have any windows, I would assume. So if I'm seeing any sort of like of the outside, I'm kind of curious about that and kind of lean in a bit more. And
I think at this point, without any more successes, it's impossible for Mafalda not to notice her younger brother, and so with a jerk that causes some turbulence, Mafalda will realise that there is someone else in the cabin and that it is Paolo. What are you doing here?
I immediately sort of back off and like again using language that Mafalda doesn't know that I learned from Mafalda and that my parents would not approve of deeply, I kind of scurry back, hoping that she didn't actually see my scruffy black hair.
Power, get back here right now.
Shit. I get into my cubbyhole and I kind of try and close the crates that were the doorway, this improvised thing, and I just sort of hold my breath.
I'm not kidding, Paolo. Get back over here right now. Don't make me come back there.
Oh no.
I'm gonna like tidy up my area and like secure my pistol, which I probably have just chucked in a cup holder. Like so.
After like a minute, I think I reopen the crates, and I come out very sheepishly.
Yeah. Get into this. I assume there's like a co-pilot chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Paolo, strap yourself in there. There's, it is not safe for you to be walking around the flight deck.
So you're not
Sit
mad?
down, and I will
Okay.
talk to you. And do not test me, Paolo.
Okay, and I will sit down and I will initially clasp whatever seatbelt mechanism there is,
Yeah,
and then start fiddling with the seatbelt mechanism
Right.
and start
Make
unclasping it and clasping it and unclasping it and clasping it.
Once Paolo's in, I'm going to make a close combat roll. I roll with 2 successes,
Oh my god!
and I'm going to whoop Paolo with any object that is sufficient for
Sure.
not to cause actual damage, but enough to sting.
Like a clipboard or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once he's locked into the chair,
Okay.
Ah,
So Paolo can consider himself thoroughly thwacked.
I would just like to point out that the core rules stipulate that if a member of your own party attacks you, you take a stress point.
No, I'm fine with that. Paolo, take a stress point.
I'll take my stress. One stress.
And this seems actually quite a good point. Now we have the characters together in one thing. Justin, do you want to describe what Mafalda looks like, please? You should have a description on your sheet.
Yeah. So she is an athletic young woman who has, a buzz cut, in pilot fatigues, and they have a kind of noticeable, lasered removed face tattoo that they have had, which I imagine covers some portion of
a large amount of her face.
Yeah.
I think we already had a description of Paolo in the beginning bit, didn't we? Just scruffy little nerf herder. So, okay, as you do this, as you're, lightly beating your little brother, the radio hisses and shuttle, this is AC3, respond.
I'll grab it quickly and stop beating Paolo, and I give him a look which is like, do not talk or this will continue, or this will get worse. And then I respond. This is shuttle.
No need for a holding pattern. Come straight on in. You'll see where.
Okay. I'll make to do that. Thinking about it, do I think that it will be worse for me? I'll be able to explain away the presence of Paolo, or is it important that Paolo hide in prevent? If someone official would see it, which do I think is going to be worse?
Oh, it's actually very difficult to tell because you have no idea what this place is, but why people are here now, you've really got no idea. Maybe it's just a storage facility, but either way, you think that the best outcome is for Paolo to hide and never be found.
Yeah.
But if he is found, it's far better for you if you've told people.
He is very sneaky. I do know that.
He is sneaky, but if this is a military facility and they unload this cargo, you simply cannot imagine how he'd hide.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about me, Math. I can take care of myself. It's all good.
I have
You only
Paolo,
found me because I wanted you to find me.
If you stay exactly where you are, when I'm doing this as I'm kind of going in. This is a serious thing, Paolo. I could lose my job over this. I just want you to do exactly.
I don't want you to. You're not going to lose your job.
I reach for the clipboard again.
They're not going to. Okay, I unclip and I run.
Get back here! Get back
no, I'm
here!
scurrying.
I can't really
I'm
take
full
my attention off flying this.
hide mode. She's got to land this ship, and in that time, she cannot chase me.
Yeah, I'm gonna safely bring her
absolutely.
down, and then I will make a decision then when I'm down.
Absolutely. And as you come up to fuel platform AC3, you can see it spread out below you. There are a number of things that immediately stand out to you. Number one is that certainly some of the structures and sort of buildings on the platform seem to have been significantly reworked, move around, removed entirely. You can also see that at each corner of the platform, there have been odd rudimentary structures built that on at least one of them, you can see a long, very thick length of chain that a couple of people are kind of like trying to like roll up and bring to the center, which seems very odd. But the oddest of all, perhaps, is that a great deal of the central area of the platform has been cleared aside to what looks almost like a very large yard area of some kind, in which you can see a great many people standing and milling around behind what seem to be large, roughly built chain link fences with guard towers at the corner.
Shit. Oh, shit. Right, okay.
I take it we're bringing ourselves down on the landing platform.
Yeah.
Okay. You land, and as soon as you land, you can see that people are quite a few people wearing Azul military fatigues are kind of walking over from the side, kind of obviously having stood aside while you land, and are now walking over, but they're being led forward by a older woman, maybe in her 50s. She's heavily scarred and heavy set. She's dressed in a Azul marshal's coat and has one eye missing and grey pinned back hair. She's got quite a stern look on her face and is approaching kind of the rear cargo entrance of the ship.
Cool. I'm gonna as soon as it's safe to do so, unclip and dash into the hold, locate Paolo, and basically tell you could, if we can get through, if you can hide here. Go on.
Well, I believe Paolo is hiding again.
Well, then I'll say this aloud. But if you could,
okay,
Paolo, would I know the best place to hide on this ship?
No, definitely not. You probably only literally just walked aboard and walked into the cockpit.
Then I say,
you
Paolo,
can give me an observation roll if you want.
Yeah, I will do that. But I basically explained that if Paolo can hide and not be detected, I will let him fly this thing. When on the way back, if we can, he can technically be holding the thing. If he can get through this, and I don't lose my job, then you just have to. But you have to be quiet. You might I basically say all these things. I rolled one success, I rolled two successes again. I'm rolling good rolls with these 5 dice.
Okay, yeah, you immedially figure out where Paolo is. There's a gap there that provides a tunnel between cargo. It's clearly going to be there.
I have a better suggestion of where he could be hiding and just kind of pointing towards it, because I haven't got much time. But
this is the only place here. This is what I've tried to lay out. Once this cargo is removed, this is a big empty space. There's no
paneling. I can shove him in.
Only if you want to potentially break the shuttle.
Fuck.
Is there any way I can get in any of the cargo containers? I guess not.
Only if you can brute force or jimmy them open.
Yeah.
Mafalda does not have the code.
Well, then in that case, I'm going to try and hide him in. But I tend to hide either way. I'll work out the details another time.
Sure,
they might not unload everything, But
they
that's
might not
my
unload it
bargain.
Immediately. No.
That's my bargain: is don't get caught, and then that's it. And then with that, I'm going to go and open up the rear hatch where the people are. But
okay,
I'm do not get caught.
Absolutely. So the rear hatch opens, and there's a wash of what you're used to on Gehenna, which is quite clear, cold air through, because you're above that layer of toxic fumes. And the woman you saw in her kind of marshal's coat strides up the rampway almost before it touches, and kind of looks around at the cargo a little bit before her eyes go to you. She gives you a terse nod. If she is a marshal, she's outside the chain of command, but there is definitely a working relationship between the military and the marshals. She steps forward and says, "Marshal Telma Andrade."
Mavano Lopez, pilot.
And you're what we have for the next few weeks, is that right?
Yes. Yes, Mum.
Right. Good. Okay. Just stand to one side. We need to clear the cargo. And then I'll take you, show you your quarters, show you what we're doing here. Was the trip over satisfactory? No cargo damaged?
I think I heard something rolling around, but I couldn't seem to find it when I checked.
Yeah, they don't pack these things well. All right, step to one side. There are a few individuals in Azul fatigues who are now going in. Basically, they have some trolleys, and they're picking up these things and starting to move them. It's going to be a matter of minutes at most.
Yeah.
So, can I see any are there full attentions continually on the cargo at the moment?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You think you want to sneak?
Well, I
out
was going to try and time when I'm going to make a break for it out of the ship.
Okay. I think you can do that. I think you can. It's not outside the realms of possibility that it could be achieved. But you know what? I can adjust die pools accordingly, can't I? To the difficulty and stuff. I think this is pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what the maximum increase or decrease on the dice pool is, or if there is one. But I'm going to say, to get out and away from these people without them seeing you, it's got to be -5 or something. So
is it possible for me to assist by maybe knocking over some cargo at a convenient time,
making a bit of a
if I lean against a pile of crates and they fall over at the right time?
Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? I think it is possible, but there's a team of 6 people here. I'm going to say that gives you an extra die back.
Yeah.
That Mafalda is just doing this. So take a -4 to your dice pool, and it's a mobility roll.
Okay. So
I know you've got a good mobility pool.
So I've got 8. So that would be 4. So and 1 stress, right?
Oh yeah, and your 1 stress die.
And my 1 stress from being hit by
if you panic now, that will be hilarious.
I know, it'll be great. Okay, so I wait for just the right moment, and I roll 0 successes.
Yeah, okay. So what happens essentially is...
Oh, I can push. Can I?
Oh yeah, you can push if you want, yeah.
So I can push the non-stress die, right?
No, I think what happens that you take another stress and then you re-roll every die that didn't succeed. Yeah. Isn't that the rule?
Okay. I think this is really important because I might get to fly a spaceship.
Yeah, sure. Well, you add another stress point, which also adds the die to the roll. So now you're rolling 4 normal dice and 2 stress dice.
And 2 stress dice. Cool. Mm-hmm. And I hope I don't get 1s on the stress dice, right?
Correct. Yep. Or you panic.
Ooh, well, I did get 1 success. I also got a 1 on a stress dice. Don't know what that means.
That means you panic, is what that means. And depending on what happens during the panic, I'm happy for you. If the panic does not interfere with your getting away cleanly, I'm happy for you to get away cleanly and then have the effects of the panic as you're going. But it may be something like you start yelling or something, in which case clearly it cannot replicate it. So for the purposes of the stress table, then Can you give me a roll, which is just roll a d6 and add your stress to it? So add a d6 and add 2.
Yep. 1 plus 2 is 3. So keeping it together.
Keeping it together. So you are fine. You feel panicked, but you are you manage to make it. You scamper down the ramp. Basically, someone is pushing a massive trolley, and you move to one side of them.
Yeah.
Run down, or just move alongside them, and they don't.
I try and keep it between them and.
Yeah. It's big and loud, and you're now on the landing platform of the fuel rig AC3. It leads the landing platform has a set of steel steps that lead down to it, so like a more general area. You can see what look like guard towers. You can see this, basically the scene that I described to Mafalda. You can see that laid out. Out here, there are quite a lot of nooks and crannies that you could at least try and secrete yourself in.
Yeah.
Can you give me?
Yeah.
Sure. Do you want to give me an observation roll with an extra 2 dice to see if you see something close? And this will have a lot of little rolls to it, but I think it's important.
Okay. So my observation is 4 plus 3, so that's 7, and the 2 stress.
An extra 2, yeah.
A lot of dice.
And I'm giving you an extra 2 dice because there's lots of nooks and crannies, but you probably won't need it.
Oh, okay. Well, even without those extra 2 dice, I rolled 2 successes. So
okay. Yep, that's fine. In fact, for the extra successes, do you want to use one of the stunts as the extra successes to mean you don't need a mobility roll to get to it? You can just scamper and hide yourself. Sure.
That's got a really good place close.
Exactly. But basically, one of those sets of steel stairs leading down from the landing platform has a cubby hole underneath it. And you just run and slide and scamper just underneath that. You are out of sight of everyone. Someone will only see where you are if they walk up to those steps and bend over and peer into the shadow underneath.
Mafalda didn't. I was expecting to go into the cockpit, not out of the ship. So Mafalda is just like, I have no idea where he is.
Look, they were going to find me on the ship. Anyway, I quickly check my pockets and make sure still got the $6, still got the laser pointer, still got the electronic handheld game. I'm all good. I can handle this. I'm going to be able to ride in the
ride
ship.
This out.
It's going to be
absolutely.
So good.
Absolutely. Mafalda, I mean, that was a very successful sneaky roll from Paolo. So I'm going to say you don't see it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But what you do see is that they trolley away all the crates from around where Paolo was hiding, and there's no Paolo. So
that's got to be pretty stressful, right?
I mean, I'm both relieved and stressed.
Yeah, Mafalda asked him to run and hide, so I guess he managed to do so. Anyway, after this has been completed, it doesn't take long for them to unload all these supplies. Marshal Andrade kind of steps over to near where you are and glances over at you. It's worth noting, by the way, she is missing one eye. She doesn't have any, like an eye patch or anything like that. It's just kind of the rough crater of where the eye was.
Observation rolls?
No. And she sort of fixes you with her remaining eye and says, "All right, I'm sure you want to know what we are here."
Yes, certainly. That would be very helpful.
Well, come with me then. She walks off and goes down a set of stairs to like a long open walkway that stands kind of between that chain link fence I described and some other just what look like old refinery buildings. Paolo, you hear footsteps like overhead as the marshal and your sister walk down there. Now that you're closer, you can see that there are, in your rough estimate, probably at least a couple of hundred people behind that wire link fence. They are all dressed in what look like cheap Bering military fatigues, kind of old-fashioned ones that are a bit out of date, a bit wrong color. Maybe they're kind of like an oldish, kind of more bluish gray. You would also, at an immediate glance, not to, typecast people, but they definitely look like they're from Bering, not Azul. There obviously isn't a hard and fast kind of like ethnic grouping within the two countries, but you're not used to looking people who too many people who look like they're from East Asia, for example. You guess these people are from Bering.
Okay.
And they're all kind of looking at you and not looking terribly happy about it.
Cool. Great.
You've seen the broadcasts recently. You know about the wildlife.
Yeah. I have, yes.
Well, Bering was taken a little bit by surprise by that, and they did not respond well, or so I've heard, which has led to a lot of diplomatic gestures from our government towards the people of Bering. Think of them as refugees, if you would. There are entirely too many of them to store in Azul. That's why these refinery platforms have been repurposed.
Right.
I suppose this is consider this a mission of mercy or compassion, in a way. We keep them fed, we keep them clothed, we keep them here until maybe Bering can find its way back on its feet again. It goes without saying that this is of the utmost secrecy.
Of course.
There are many in Azul who would prefer if we strapped some explosives to the legs of this platform and just let them go. Are you one of them, Lopez?
Absolutely not.
You maybe couldn't say the same about older members of your family.
I mean, right now, all I'm thinking of is Paolo is on this platform.
Sure, yeah.
I'm not really processing the large geopolitical things. Like, I think Mafalda, she is looking like, she would have the look to her naively of someone who is really distracted by the situation and confused and conflicted, whereas actually what's happening is like every single nook and cranny is being looked for a child's leg, and so there's lots of kind of looking around and looking anguished, but not really because of the situation per se.
Absolutely. Marshal Andrade leads you, as I say, through this walkway. You see all these people. They don't look happy. Most of them are kind of talking to each other and generally not having very much to do. You see as you walk along, she glances over at something on the yard. Looks like maybe some graffiti or something someone has scrawled that you kind of can't see from the angle you're at. There are a few people in the way. She yells over at a guard nearby. Deal with that. We don't want any more of that. The guard nods and kind of clambers down the guard tower, which is on the inside of the fencing. And another guard comes out with what literally just looks like a bucket and a brush. And they go over and start taking care of the graffiti. Several people nearby of the Bering refugees kind of are just watching them with very not very expressive faces.
Yeah.
She leads you down the end of the walkway, and off to the side there are a number of low buildings that seem to be maybe repurposed into offices or something. And she kind of walks over by them and says, "That's my office there. That longer building is the guard barracks. You'll be barracked there. And these," she walks over to kind of like relatively small huts that have sort of they seem to have been fortified a little bit with like heavier doors put in, and there's a guard in front of each of them. This is isolation because unfortunately it's needed. And both of them are full at the moment. She gestures for you to take a look.
I take a look.
Inside the first one, John, you've already done it, but can you give again a brief description of Huang 12, please?
Huang is short, appears to be of Vietnamese descent with a severe black bob and one very obviously robotic leg.
And in the other one, Alex, can you give a description of Boya, please? You're on mute, mate.
I'm doing really well with mics today. Yeah, it's good. Boyer is like pretty average build, like, you know, moderately athletic, because obviously that's, you know, his job kind of demands it. And he's got a sort of a buzz cut and stubble. He's a little bit rough. And he's wearing what I would imagine, again, at this point, is probably quite a tattered sort of dark suit that sort of might, to a trained eye, mark him out as, you know, being security.
I would slightly correct that in that both of you are wearing the fatigues you've been given.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, just I think you before we went to who's in them. I think were you gonna say something or no? Well, in any case, Marshall Andrade says an incident. One of them's in there for her own protection, the other one for theirs. She glances over towards everyone in the yard.
Right. Are there any more pilots on the station?
There was one. He quit. That's why you're
Right.
here.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Am I going to be doing a run back to the city anytime soon?
No time soon, at least 2 weeks away before we need more supplies. You might take recce's, go underneath
Right.
the fog, look at the ground, check out the situation down there.
Yeah.
We're not as safe as you might think.
Okay. I kind of look towards the isolation as if thinking, you know, interpreting that as there are some dangerous characters here, rather than anything else.
Sure.
Right.
All right. Well, find yourself a bunk. And you'll get called if we need a run. Otherwise, just try to make yourself useful. It's not easy taking care of hundreds of people who don't want to be taken care of.
Sure. Is there a chance I could grab some grub? There's some things I need to go finish off on the ship.
There's a mess at the end of the barracks.
Cool.
Help yourself.
Then Mafalda is going to try and grab enough food for 2 people and then go back to the ship and hope to find Paolo there.
Sure, absolutely. And while you do that, we will cut to the perspective of someone else, an individual in the fenced-off yard, standing, you know, as part of the group. I don't know. What do you think Dima would be doing with, at this point, 8 months of almost nothing in terms of any kind of activity, any kind of, you know, they're not giving you anything. You'll basically have an area in which you can all communally sleep in relative warmth. You've been given clothes, you're given food, and that's it.
Well, I think Dima would have at least tried to keep up with some form of exercise, because back at Chirikov Station, he used to be reasonably, you know.
Yeah, used to go running out on Gehenna's surface.
Actually, the air here is probably better, given
It's
we're higher up.
almost certainly better, yeah.
So yeah, doing some of that, keeping an ear out for things. Yeah, there's very little to keep my mind occupied. So just, I guess, musing on the things I've seen and the little I've seen, and
yeah,
studying patterns of the guards and so on. Not with an active mind to escape, just kind of keeping tabs on things, just kind of, you know, trying to keep observing things and keep reasonably fresh.
Absolutely. Well, for a start, it's everyone is kind of on edge because it has actually been quite a long time since there was an alert. So everyone is feeling like it's maybe overdue. It's always tense and loud, and I'll leave it there. In terms of your other companions, obviously Boyer and Huang are in isolation. Just to briefly talk about the other NPCs we had. So you still are on the platform with you. Yeva Tarasova, who is the medic from Chirikov. He's a kind of long-running NPC. Also on the platform with you are Cam Huan, who's the also from the first installment, who is another Colonial Marine of the Union of Progressive Peoples. There is also Collier Sokolo, who was a journalist who you picked up in Bering, who is still with you. And however, there are 2 NPCs who are gone. Duan Guang is a pilot who was with you since the beginning. As soon as it was apparent that she was a pilot, she was taken out of the group of individuals as you were processed here into AC3. You have no idea where she is. You haven't seen her since, and that was almost 8 months ago. Also, about 2 weeks after you were here, a group of individuals in unmarked military clothing came and left with Alyona Alexandrova, who was the scientist you picked up in Bering. And again, you have not seen her since. So, as we know, those are the characters. Are there any of them in particular you think you would be associating with while you're here? I'd say that Cam and Yeva are quite keen on still being with your group. Collier's probably broken off at least a little bit because he's interviewing people, you know,
Sure,
and remembering all the details because his cameras certainly are not allowed with him anymore.
Well, I guess the first question is, did I see the event that meant that Huang 12 and Boria were...
Yeah. Some of your fellow, I mean, they're calling you refugees, but you certainly think of yourselves as prisoners, were not happy that there was a synthetic among you, and even more not happy that they were a corpse synthetic, because they were kind of blaming the Sikhs and corporation variously for causing this thing in the first place and or not doing enough to prevent it. Take your pick of any number of reasons. Someone tried to step in and relieve a bit of their tension by beating the crap out of an android, and Boya punched him very hard and put him into the infirmary where he still is, after taking a very bad fall to the ground.
Okay.
That's it, right? Basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I'd be hanging around with Yeva and Cam.
In that case, Cam is stood behind you. I think I've described him before, but he's kind of a handsome guy with some scars of kind of again of Vietnamese descent, with a shaved head, usually in fatigues, but different fatigues now. These sort of prisoner get-up, and he's kind of like watching the activity outside and saying, "New pilot."
Looks like it. Yeah, I don't know where the old one went, but
he didn't look happy.
Can't blame him. Wonder how long this one will last.
Right. Well, I'm gonna go for a run again. Do you want to come?
Sure.
You start your runs, which is essentially getting as close to the perimeter fence as you can and just running around and hoping people move out of your way. Yeah. And as you do this, Mafalda, so you're going to try and find Paolo, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to work out a plan, even out of character, about how I'm going to keep Paolo secret for days. I was like,
well, you know what? I'm actually going to make it easier for you to find Paolo here, because I'm guessing the first place you're going to go look for Paolo is the shuttle, right? Yeah. Well, to get to that shuttle, you've got to walk up those stairs.
It's true.
And I'm going to say at the point at which you walk up the stairs, there's no one else walking, which is fine. Like they're spread out, these other military personnel. So Paolo, you see Mafalda is about to walk up the stairs above your head on her own.
So I make it like a small like bird noise as best I can, like a little whistle.
The only reason I'm guessing I'm gonna change that to an insect noise because there aren't bird noises.
That's why I was even more like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You can
so
make like a
little
Either way, the noise is heard, and I'm much relieved. And Power, come on, get on ship.
You sure? Are you sure?
Now.
Really?
Yes, get on the ship.
I don't know if I can make it.
There's no one on the landing platform.
You can make it.
Okay.
Come on, now, move.
Okay, is that a bread roll?
That's a bread roll. Come on.
Can I have a bread roll, please?
You can get on the ship. I'm going to walk onto the ship.
Okay, I'm going to follow.
Sure. I think like
Yeah.
I think now the everyone's people don't just hang around on the landing platform like when the shuttle isn't coming in. So I think there's no one around to see you. You can scamper up into the shuttle.
Basically, I'm going to I feed Paolo, close up the ship, so it's just me and him. Feed Paolo, and basically say, look, as soon as I get a run, as soon as I can get back up in the air, I'm going to go drop you back, because you can't stay here for 2 weeks. You can't. I will lose my job if you're here for 2 weeks, and you don't want to be here for 2 weeks.
You're going to leave me on my own. You're
going to have to look after yourself, Paolo. This isn't you brought this on yourself, and look. I've got some fatigues here. Put them on. Distance, you might be mistaken for someone who works here.
These are a bit big.
I know they're a bit big. Did you think I had a choice in this? I'm gonna look for that. I look at that clipboard like longingly.
I'm gonna look at that clipboard.
Look, you need to avoid being seen, and hopefully, maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I'll get permission to get back up in the air, and I will get you back to Azul.
But you.
Well, look. What did you think was going to happen, Paolo? You can't be here. You're not allowed to be here.
We can hang out.
We can't hang. I will try and spend as much time on the ship as possible. Look, I will look. There'll be some faults on the ship. I'll spend as much time here as I possible trying to fix them. But
what do you mean?
You're going to have to spend some of your time alone.
Look,
does that make sense, Paolo?
I remember our promise.
That's our promise.
And you'll let me fly this ship for confirmation.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'll start
we have
studying
to get back.
The controls.
Don't touch anything, but we'll get. If we can get through this, because if they find you, not only is this not only could you be in a lot of trouble, but I could lose my job, or even worse, I could keep my job.
You're confusing me, Math.
I need to get off. I need to stop being here. This whole thing is stupid, and also,
okay, but
I don't want to be working this job.
Bit of your bread.
Never mind. Look,
that was some good
Paolo,
stuff.
It doesn't matter. My career is not your concern. What my concern is making sure that we get you back to Azul tomorrow, or the worst, the day after tomorrow.
Thanks, Math. I know you care about me. You care about me enough to give me that bread, right? Though.
The only thing I'm really not sure about is how you're going to toilet, but you're going to have to work this out.
Oh, there's probably some kind of toilet on the shuttle, right?
Oh, okay, in that case, you're fine. Yeah, you just stay here, don't get caught, and play your game. And if you need anything,
I'll come and get you.
I'll check on the ship. But if you leave, because they could maybe there's a kind of if you stick something up on the window, leave the clipboard up on the window, and I'll know you need something. Otherwise, don't move.
Like a code.
And don't unless you I think can we set up a series of things of if this is
I don't think we need to go into detail.
We don't need to
go
go into detail of it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
basically
into loads
the plan
of detail.
is Paolo. Yeah, we go into loads of detail, but Paolo knows not to get caught, and that is the job, Paolo's job. And Paolo knows that I'm going to try and get him back to Azul as soon as as soon as we take off. I'm going to find a reason to divert back to Azul, and I will pretend that I'm doing so to pick. In my mind, I'm going to buy some cheap beer at the station and be like, I'll get in some trouble for that, but no one needs to know that my kid brother was at the station.
Sure,
that's my plan.
Sure, absolutely. While you're on the shuttle, do you do any routine checks or of anything like that?
Yeah, I will do some checks, but I will
Okay.
I will also try to find something that I could be like needing to attend to the shuttle for regularly.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the pilot regularly going to the shuttle is no big
And,
deal.
yeah, that's that kind of stuff.
One thing I would say
Mhm.
is that could throw an immediate wrench in some of your future plans is that you immediately notice that the shuttle has been landlocked by the refinery.
Fuck. Well, yeah, that's fine. We're not going anywhere until we get permission to go somewhere, and then I will go somewhere and my plan is to like divert if I get a chance to.
I understand. I understand the broad strokes of the complicated plan.
Yes, it's a reckless plan. That's what I think you've got to grasp.
Yeah. So we are going to cut across AC3 and Huang 12. You have been sat or stood, or however you want to do it, in this hut for a while now. There is nothing to do in here. There is simply a low, like, camp bed for you to sleep on. There's a chair for you to sit in. That is it. The only light is coming in from the reinforced plastic in the door, through which you can look out and see, the yard spread out just below where you are. What have you been doing to entertain yourself, if anything?
First of all, I think I've been sitting because I don't want to put undue stress on the bearings in my knee with this non-Seegson issued or non-proper leg. I don't know whether as a synth I can basically just have like an internal screensaver going. Not exactly a power down, but like a resting.
I think you can basically put yourself to sleep with some kind of like automated system that wakes you up if your sensory things receive a lot of stimulus. That sounds reasonable to me. But in many ways, the synthetics are meant to be complete replications of human beings. So, I don't think there is like a, you can't see your operating system or anything like that. It's more replicative than that.
Sure. Yeah,
but there would need to be a need for you to voluntarily, at least temporarily, shut down because of situations like you don't need sleep. So if you were on a ship and everyone goes into suspended animation for 3 months, for some of that time you want to shut down, right? So
yeah. To even if it's just to sustain power or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it would be more or less that, or otherwise sitting there, maybe. I mean, I can't. Yeah, sort of mentally trying to figure out what my report is going to be when I finally get back to HQ, but
sure,
I can only redraft that in my head so many times before I actually have to type it out.
Absolutely. Okay, so there is a clunk. Sorry for the cat noises, folks, by the way. The reason I turn my cam off is to kick him out of the room because he's being a menace. There is basically what rouses you from sort of your shutdown state is the sound of the door of your hut opening.
I will come out of sleep mode and see who it is.
It's the marshal walking into your isolation hut. There are a couple of kind of Marines behind her with armed. They don't seem to think you're particularly a threat, but they're they are standing there for sure.
Have you considered my request to be returned to Seegson HQ?
Look, that is not possible at this point in time, as I told you before and will tell you again. Seegson has no representatives in Azul, as you well know, and we are not in a situation to get you off planet.
I see.
I came here to tell you that I am running out of provision to keep guard over these isolation huts. I can't afford to have guards on them all the time. What with the... Look, we have attrition. It's limited, but we have it. I'm going to let Makarov out. Because he's... Well, he can take care of himself, can't he? Although I have some news to give him that may not help his situation out in the general population. I came here to ask you if you still want to be in here, or you're willing to risk going out in that yard. I'll gladly take the guards back from you as well, but I feel at least some responsibility for your safety. Though I don't know why.
If your concern is a lack of resources to care for me, then surely the better option would be, well, to take me out of the gate. I am no threat to you. Makarov will be no threat as long as my safety is guaranteed. We have no reason to cause trouble or sabotage anything. We just want to get out of here.
That would be a perfectly sound argument, Huang, if you were a synthetic of the Azul colony. But you're not, are you? It's entirely possible you don't even know what you do. You could have all sorts of little plans spinning around that you don't even know about inside that tin can head of yours. So no, I won't let you out of here and just let you roam outside of the yard. Do you want to be in the hut, or do you want to be out in general population? I'm giving you the option.
And when the next altercation happens, am I put back in here?
Depends on the outcome of the altercation, doesn't it? It's your choice. I think it'd be a heavier... We can't have your bodyguard just antagonizing the situation and attacking other refugees left and right.
You mean you can't have my bodyguard bodyguarding me?
Hut
because
or
your
yard?
guards can't break up fights.
Hut or yard?
I want to talk to Makarov.
No, hut or yard. You can talk to him out in the yard if you want.
Yard.
All right, then. I'll leave you in here until we bring Makarov out, shall I? Just in case. She steps out of the door and it closes. Boya! The door to your hut slides open. What have you been doing to keep yourself sane? You've been in isolation about a week.
Right. I mean, Boy is not exactly a socialite, is he? At the best of times. So he's probably just been trying to, what else do you do when you have that much time on your hands? He's probably just been exercising in his little cell, right?
Sure.
So that's probably
Absolutely.
all he's been doing: exercising, eating, sleeping, and I guess insofar as he has any limited ability to see at the outside world, trying to see if he, I don't know, sees any sign of rank 12 being moved or anything like that happening, but he doesn't know anything.
Sure. Well, then let's say you're mid-exercise when the door opens up and the marshal is stood kind of outside down the couple of steps that lead down to the walkway with a couple of guards behind her who are armed. And unlike Huang, they're not pointing their weapons at you, but they certainly look quite alert about it.
Yes.
Come out.
All right. Can I help you?
Yes, you can.
You going to elaborate on that?
I will if you come out.
All right. I step out.
Right, to my office. You walk there. It's not a long distance, it's about 20 yards away. She opens the door and walks into it. The other guards go to move in, and she kind of waves them back. They look a bit surprised at this and maybe slightly concerned. It's fine. It's fine. The day I can't take a former bearing marine is the day I should hang up my spurs.
I think that gets a wry smirk from Boria. So we step in.
Yeah, the door closes behind you. She indicates like a very rough seat opposite on the other side of her desk and sits down herself in her own seat, which barely seems any better. Swings her feet up onto the desk. They're wearing kind of like quite almost like cowboy boots, quite old-fashioned.
I was going to ask about the spurs.
And she kind of like pulls her duster back a bit, and you can see that she does definitely have a gun slung on her hip.
And wants me to know it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with you, Makarov?
Well, keep me with Hang 12 and keep Hang 12 out of trouble, and then you don't need to do anything with me, right?
How are you with a gun, with a pulse rifle?
Proficient.
I need another gun arm.
That is not what I expected you to say.
It's not what I expected to say when I got up this morning. But one of my more reliable sharpshooters decided to take a walk off the edge of the platform.
They don't sound very reliable.
Reliable with a trigger, clearly not with... It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I'm releasing you back into Gen Pop with the understanding that when we need that trigger finger of yours, we can call on it. I know you're not fully aware of the circumstances. You know there are the alerts. You probably don't know exactly what they entail.
I can guess based on previous experience.
Yes. This group of yours. We had the briefing from the scientist before she left. Chirikov Station, right? The first sighting of them, officially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then this wondrous survival ability of yours should come in handy. I'm going to give you a gun when the alerts sound. You're going to go and help deal with the alert. Then you're going to hand the gun back, and you're going to go back into Gen Pop.
Okay.
Juan 12 has decided that she wants to join you to go back to the yard. So I suppose just keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully, your last actions sent a message to your fellow refugees, especially with the other event I had this morning.
Which was?
The man you struck down died.
Was a rough fall.
But apparently he was popular, so I suppose watch your back.
Well, I didn't exactly constitute the head of a fan club to begin with, so as long as they don't do anything, I don't know. We'll see whether they're more pissed off or scared, I guess.
I suppose so. Right. Is there any questions you would like to ask me?
Do I get anything for this alert-based assistance you're asking for?
Your cooperation will be noted in my official report.
Oh, well, I feel safer already.
And if I have any leeway whatsoever when it comes to shipping all of you back to Bering or off planet or whatever, I'll make sure your name is top of the list, Makarov.
Okay, but Huang Tol's name better be there too. Well,
As you say that, the entire station erupts in a shrill-sounding klaxon.
And I guess that's my cue, right?
That's Providence, Makarov. Outside that door, towards the barracks will be my gunnery sergeant. He's expecting you and will let you know everything you need.
Outstanding. All right, and Makarov turns on his heel and gets moving, I guess.
You emerge out by those barracks. As for we're going to stick with Makarov for a little while now. As for everyone else, Paolo, you can definitely hear the klaxons aboard the ship. Mafaldo, whether you're still aboard the shuttle or not, you also can very much hear the klaxons. Dima, you definitely can in the yard. And as they sound, everyone in the yard is being herded back into the sleeping areas by soldiers. Huang 12, you can hear them. All of you can hear them. Huang and Dima, you're fairly sure kind of what they may be related to for obvious reasons, but no one is talking. All you know is the alarms go off. There is the sound of gunfire for quite a while, and then the alarms eventually stop.
Okay.
So
I will at some point have done sort of calculations on how fast the swarms move and whether it's likely that,
carry the two, we're fucked.
Yeah, when you first arrived here, it took a month for the first alert to happen. It was then happening kind of weekly for a while, and then multiple times weekly, and then it's getting faster and faster.
And have I noticed the attrition of the guards?
Yeah, you said you've been keeping an eye on these things. Yes, there has been some attrition of guards. You would say when you started here, there were probably about 50 military personnel here. Now there are about 30.
That's not good news.
Not loving those odds with my current tasking.
So, Makarov, you are escorted by the two guards who brought you to the office over to an area. It's kind of slightly out of sight of the actual yard where you can see people being like herded through to the sleeping quarters. And there are a number of Azul military personnel there, the guards essentially, who kind of glare at you or look at you with either amusement or disapproval or whatever as you move towards them. And there's a gunnery sergeant at the front who is basically handing out like a limited amount of what seems to be like sharpshooting equipment. So scopes, there's like some sort of binocular things that you've seen before that are sort of dedicated for spotters and stuff like that. Handing them out to people and seems to be picking people based on who would best use them. And his eyes glance over to you and says, "Right, yes, I was told to expect you.
What have you got for me?
You gonna behave?"
I'm a personable guy. Just don't go after my asset.
Well, we won't be going after your asset, that's for sure. All right, give him it. He has a deputy at his side who kind of glances in a kind of "are you sure" kind of way, and then she hands over a standard USMC pulse rifle to you. They're not too different, right? You know how to use that?
Yeah, I'll get along.
All right. Well, I don't have any scopes for you, but hey, if you do well, maybe you'll get one next time.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes, I guess.
All right. Northeast, take him. A group of individuals sort of herd together, and there seem to be like 4 groups of individuals. And there's one Marine who kind of looks over at you as you approach that group, and she kind of says in quite broken Russian, she says, You shoot well?
I shoot okay.
All right. I suppose we'll take a chance on you. With us. She walks over to sort of near the northeast corner of the refinery platform, which is kind of, for context, if we want to orient ourselves, the shuttle landing platform is near the southwest corner. It doesn't take long to get there. It's a few walkways and gangways up to it. And when you reach there, what you're confronted with is essentially what looks like a very short tower leading up from the corner with a very large circular concrete block at the top. And maybe at some points there were things on there, whether some machinery or something like that. It's all been cleared and removed into a junk pile at the side of it. And now there's just a metal ladder leading up the maybe 10 or so feet to that kind of sheared off flat concrete platform. As soon as you get up there, there's a number of individuals. There's probably about I'd say 6 individuals, including you there. There is several boxes of ammo that are just sat there. There is also what appears to be a very large metal pinion, something that looks like it's been repurposed from somewhere else on the platform, that's been driven down via some method, whether brute force or heating or whatever, into the center of this circular flat concrete block. It has 3 very heavy chains leading out from it, draped to near the edge of the platform and kind of curled there with a bit of length. One of the individuals with you, one of the guards with you, turns to you and says something to you in Portuguese. It's entirely up to you whether you know Portuguese.
I wouldn't imagine that he does know Portuguese, to be honest.
Probably not. He says it again and like gestures it towards you. An individual next to him kind of nudges him and says something, and he says, "Lift your hands," in English.
Okay, yeah. Boy just complies,
Turn around.
Okay.
You feel him lean over. He's starting to strap a very heavy belt around your waist, which has like a straps. One of which that goes over each shoulder, one of which kind of goes under your groin and attaches to the back of the belt, where there seems to be a large chain clasp.
Interesting setup. Okay, what the hell am I doing with this?
Having fun. One of them laughs.
I don't suppose anyone's having fun with me, or am I just having like alone time fun here, guys? What's going on?
If you're looking around, you can see 2 other individuals also having the same things strapped onto them.
Right. Can I get a quick kind of read on those people? Do they look different from the others here? Like,
No, they look the same. Both of them don't look happy about it.
Great. Yeah, I
Or they
felt
look
like I probably
nervous.
shouldn't. I felt like I probably shouldn't be feeling happy about what's happening. Yeah.
They
Okay.
definitely look nervous.
Great. Well, I can't really back out or get out of this situation in any meaningful way. I can't even think of a way to prepare myself, really. So
Sure.
Boy is just gonna roll with whatever the fuck this is.
Sure, absolutely. The original guy, again in quite like limited or at least heavily accented English, points to the other 2 and says, "Do what they do."
Okay. Well, Boy is gonna pay close attention then, because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, as you watch, one of them sort of like closes her eyes and kind of shifts himself, grabs a cross around their neck and sort of grabs it tightly for a second, and then opens their eyes, walks to the edge of the concrete platform, and essentially sort of lowers themselves down, first kind of sitting on it and then tipping over the edge. And you can see them with their feet braced against like what seems to be like a metal strut that's running its way around. So they're leaning over. They are over the drop. And for context, not that you can see all the way down because there's that layer of toxic smog, but this refinery platform is 820 meters high. So it's really fucking high.
Yeah.
and they're just kind of leant over there. The chain is very thick, very bracing. It looks uncomfortable because it's tight against their body, those straps. But they basically settle themselves into position, so they're like at about maybe like a 45-degree angle, braced against that strut, and they just lift that pulse rifle and start aiming down the leg directly beneath you that plunges down into the smog. The other person starts walking to the edge to do that as well, like at spaced out, like in even intervals, around the concrete block.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to be trying to emulate that on this. The like, I guess there's a sector that isn't covered that is supposed to be mine. So I think that would be intuitive.
Yeah, it's like the leftmost, I think, is what they've left for you.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start trying to. I'll check everything secure. I'll check like the load in the rifle, make sure everything's good, and then I'm going to try and Boy's going to try and lower himself over. Okay.
So, can you give me, please, I'd say it's a mobility roll to sort of get yourself in the right position.
It's not that bad. So it's the governing stat plus the skill, right? And that's just how many D6. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
That is 1 success.
Yep, that's absolutely fine then. Yeah, it's uncomfortable as hell, and it's tight. It's
tight in the crotch.
Tight in the crotch, tight under the arm, probably. But you don't feel like you're going to fall. Like you're really braced against your feet. I don't know how scared of heights Boyer is, but maybe that determines how much you want to lean forwards. But you feel held in place, certainly.
Yeah, I don't think he's got really bad vertigo, but I think he's entirely rationally afraid of untested mechanisms dangling him over toxic clouds at 800 meters. So, made by people he doesn't know or trust. So there's that.
One of the other individuals from on top, you see she is come over to where you are. It's the one who seemed to be in charge of this group. And she kind of lies down, face down on the edge. And she's sort of got her elbows on the edge and has those kind of scope binoculars and is looking down below and kind of fiddling with the controls. She looks over at you in English, says, "What's Russian for left and center and right?"
Okay. Boyer conveys what the Russian for left and center and right is, because Alex doesn't know that. Also, I think it's now obvious that this is going to be the spotter. So Boyer's Boyer, and then looks at her inquisitively as if to what do I call you? How do I yell to get your attention?
Helena.
Okay, Helena.
She's kind of repeating what you told her in Russian over and over again, just to kind of get it right.
And I'm pointing and making sure she says the right thing when I'm left, right, center. Yeah.
You repeat it a few times and you're comfortable that she knows what she's doing. And she looks below. The klaxons are still very loud, by the way, but you can just about hear each other over it. You are starting to feel, even from this kind of distance up to the toxic smog, you can feel a tremor in the metal strut under your feet, as if some kind of seismic or other, impactful thing is happening somewhere below on these legs.
If only I could guess what that might be.
Sure. Over to one side of it, you have actually heard a few seconds before the bark of pulse rifle fire start in the distance over on maybe another side of the refinery. But where you are, it's the man who's on the rightmost end of where you are, the opposite end of where you are. You hear a sharp voice yell something out in Portuguese, and he starts firing. Helena, just near you, just kind of registers what I assume is you kind of getting tenser, and just says in English, "Hold. Not yet."
I mean, I can't see anything, Helena. That's your thing, okay? You just let me know.
She yells center in Russian.
Okay. Well, gonna snap to center straight away and try and pick out anything that remotely resembles movement.
Sure.
Target.
assume we're using the good old short controlled bursts.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. She has like a big stack of ammo next to her for when you need to reload.
Right.
As you start firing at first, you can't see anything. And then within a few seconds, you start to see shadowy shapes in that top layer of toxic smog, and then slowly through the kind of pinkish reddish mist emerge familiar skeletal biomechanical figures crawling at speed up the massive metal legs of the platform. And as you start to pick them out and aim at them specifically, Helena, again in accented English, says to you, aim for top center mass. Try not to get it over the legs.
Yeah, I think Boria understands the rationale immediately there.
Sure. We're not going to talk about specific Xenos at this point.
Yeah.
Just give me a ranged combat roll to see how you're doing.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this is on paper my thing, right? So, and in other games where it's been my thing, it's always gone really well. Okay, that is. So I have 4 agility and 3 in range combat. So I'm rolling 7 dice. I'm going to do a couple of
And you know what? I think, in all honesty, we need to give you a point of stress for this entire situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, just being the dangling initially. So
yeah.
Zero stress, easy.
Yeah, I'm just like, chill, just chill.
Yeah.
Does the gun add any gear dice?
Oh, that's a very good point, because it's not the pulse rifle itself is not a rifle you've. I think they have slightly different stats for the different.
So I had in the previous arcs an AK-40-47 pulse rifle, which says it has 0 bonus but does 2 damage, which I take to mean it doesn't give you dice.
Whereas this time, I think you have an Armat M41A, which is slightly better made. And it does have a and it does have a +1 bonus.
Right.
So you get an extra die. You get an extra die.
So I now need to roll. Okay, well, I've got 1 success out of 7 on my attributes. So I now need to roll in my 1 stress and my gear, right?
Sure.
I do want to pause and ask, Alex, are you using the cursed dice tray before you?
I am not. No. It's in the other room. It's as far away as I can put the cursed dice tray.
Sure.
Okay, so there's a success on the gear, and it's a 3 on the 3 on the stress. Doesn't do anything, does it?
No,
it's only a 1. Okay.
Yeah,
we're good then. So two successes, 1 from stats, 1 from gear.
Okay. Below you let rip kind of like short bursts of kind of auto fire from the pulse rifle, and the xenomorphs below you, a couple of them kind of shatter open. You think. You suddenly realize why the Union of Progressive Peoples has perhaps struggled in the limited engagements it's had with the USMC, because this weapon does seem quite a bit more capable, and more to the point, it's firing much better ammunition than you would have, because the penetration from your pulse rifle and the xenomorphs, when you've used it before, hasn't been this good. You see the kind of orangey yellow spray of their acidic blood as they go tumbling off the edge of the legs. You try and keep it off there, but as they get closer, you register for the first time that all along the legs, almost from where you are, from a point maybe 30 feet or so below you, there is heavy pitting and scarring on these legs from the acid of these creatures. But yeah, they are coming up towards you, but slowly, because you're knocking the first front runners off.
The first ranks down, yeah.
Absolutely. Helena is carrying on, kind of shouting out, but less and less as you could just see them coming up towards you. You wouldn't even want to begin guessing at how many of them there are coming up this leg. Obviously, the other 2 individuals are also firing and taking them down.
Yeah. So it's just a sort of a broiling mass at some indeterminate distance below me.
Yeah, they're not like completely solid, but they are like, there are a lot of them.
Yeah, it's confusing to look at. Okay.
Could you roll observation as well, please?
Absolutely. Observation is wits plus observation. Okay. It's not terrible at this. 3 + 1. Nothing, no successes on that. I might push it.
Did you use your stress die?
I didn't. No, sorry. Yeah. 5, so nothing on that.
Yeah.
So I could push, but I'd get a stress and immediately roll it in, wouldn't I?
Correct.
You know what? We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it because I feel like being situationally aware at a time like this might have some benefits. You know, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Call me
Just,
crazy. Okay, it's 1 success and no panics. I got both the stress die landed on 2 though, so I was like testing fate there.
Yeah. So it's probably been a while, but I'm pretty sure Boya has seen what a face hugger looks like.
Oh, fuck me gently. Okay, right, yeah.
There is a scattering of those smaller creatures among the larger xenomorphs. Could you give me another? Could you tell me which of them you're focusing on, and give me another ranged combat roll, please?
Which of the the fake face huggers or the xenomorphs? Is that what you're asking me? Or
yes,
right. Face huggers are harder target, but if one of those gets up, it's like you're never gonna fucking find it. So yeah, I'm gonna focus on the face huggers if I can. So another ranged combat. Let's roll it in. That is already 2 successes. 2 successes out of 7 on the attributes. Then my 2 stress. Another success. Did you get success from stress die?
Yeah.
Or is it just an opportunity to fail?
No.
Right.
You count successes. Yeah.
All right, that's 3 successes.
The idea is adrenaline, right? So it can
Yes.
send you one way or another, or both.
Gotcha. So it's 3 then. 3 successes.
3. Yeah. You know what? You're doing really well. You think? Sorry, which did you say you focused on? The face huggers or the xenomorphs?
The face huggers for definite.
Sure.
Yeah.
All of those crab spider-like creatures go kind of like spinning off down past the legs, not giving off the kind of satisfying screeching sounds that the xenomorphs do. And you find time to blast another one of those. You get the impression that your leg is doing fairly well, that no one sounds panicked, everyone sounds controlled, everyone is firing fairly well. At a certain point, Helena has to pass you a new magazine, which you slam in and just carry on firing. This goes on, you'd say, about 5 minutes, until eventually they stop emerging from the fog below. You get the impression that you are the first tower to stop firing, because you can still hear it going on in certain other places. Eventually, after another couple of minutes, all gunfire that you can hear stops. There is a moment of brief silence, and then Helena kind of walks to the center of the concrete tower, picks up a flare gun, and fires it up into the air of the slightly darkening Gehenna sky. You see its arc overhead and explode into kind of, red sparks overhead. The tower over to your left kind of goes up and does the same. The tower over to your right, after another 10 seconds or so, another similar explosion. And then seconds pass. And then about a minute passes. Everyone still on the chains or the spotters on the top, staring at the diametrically opposite tower, the southwest tower. No flare emerges. And Helena, you don't understand Portuguese, but you're pretty sure what she says is a very virulent swear word. And I think we'll take our first break there.
Ooh.
So we're going to take about a 10-minute break, folks. So time for everyone to go get a snack, get a drink, and then we'll be back with more hot alien action. When we come back, everyone, if you haven't thought of what your agenda would have been for the first act already, have a think about it, and when you come back, we'll see if we can allocate out some story points. So yeah, we'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Awesome.